Hello, everyone. Welcome to another My Music. It's me, Graham Cofe, and my guest today, Lapsley, or Holly, as she's known to her friends. We're going to be talking about her music, her journey into writing, not only for herself but other people, in a minute. But first, this new video from the people at Analog Trash. Do enjoy.
Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop. Keep on, don't stop.
I love the bit in the middle of that where it says actual physical stuff.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Rare.
Oh,
Rare.
yeah. It is, although they seem to be putting out a ton of stuff at the moment. And we did a podcast yesterday with B Charlotte. I don't know whether you know B Charlotte, based up in Scotland. She's just released her debut album, and she was invited around Sea Bass, I believe it's called, which is a new record pressing plant up in Scotland. They're opening up
Yeah.
on a regular basis now.
Yeah, because it didn't really seem like we worked out it wasn't feasible for the EP to make a vinyl. And we're just going straight in for doing physical press for the albums. But that's really interesting because usually it has to be made in Germany.
Yeah.
When I was with XL, I think they were made in Germany.
Exactly.
And massive,
or Czech Republic or places like that.
Because they're super old plants, aren't they? Super old presents.
Well, there's a lot of super new plants opening up in the UK. I know there was one in Manchester last year. And one of the things I love about some of the new ones that are opening up as well is that they're all green as well. They've got this real green ethic to them as well. So they're going much more sustainable. All of the process is much more sustainable. I love it.
That's cool.
It's good. It's good. We're beginning to make vinyl out of old rubbish, which is great.
Make out of recycled stuff.
Yeah,
recycled plastic. Yeah,
exactly. One day we'll learn how to make it out of seaweed, literally. I mean, have you heard that there's like somewhere in this country now there's a seaweed farm off of a coast where they're making plastic out of seaweed? I mean,
I think it's actually near Margate. It's like bioplastic.
Yeah. That's the future. That's where we need to go. So you've been massively busy since I last spoke to you. I mean, obviously you had the last album came out. How did that go down? What was the reception like for that?
I think interesting. I don't know if it was my favorite album that I've done, and I guess as you start to rack them up over the years, you have different records. I think what I was trying to figure out in that album, I may be only settling now in the studio, if that makes sense. So for me, and I don't think I realized that at the time. So although it did okay. It did okay. I think there were some highlights, there's some moments, but I don't know if it was the most cohesive body of work. But nonetheless, definitely summed up a period of time in my life. You know what I mean?
Part of the journey, isn't it?
Yeah, which is kind of prepped the way for obviously this EP and the upcoming album that I'm actually just handing into mix this week. So
yeah. It's a great EP. It's a great EP. And it goes from. I mean, well, let's talk about the opening track because the opening track on this EP is massive.
4 a.m. Day.
Yeah, I feel that's a really big song.
I think the sound is getting a lot more full and maybe a lot more indie. I think that obviously there's a bit of a difference between the music that I listen to and the music that I do for the people, and then what ends up being Lapsley. And I think I'm trying to align Lapsley more with where my head is at right now, which is definitely in more of a guitar-y indie 80s space. So I guess I'm just dipping into that.
But across this, you've got you've got elements of, you know, where you first started out with the sort of, you know, clippy sounds and, you know, clever vocal effects and stuff like that. But then there's elements of drum and bass and
Yeah.
and I was like, literally, I was listening to your EP yesterday, and as I was scrolling, and then Goldie came up in the studio, and I actually did sound for Goldie many years ago, and I was thinking, oh blimey, that's a bit of a connection, isn't it? But you know, it kind of took me back to those days of like inner city life and Goldie and, you know, Ronnie Size and all of that sort of, all the stuff that came out of Bristol at the time, whatever.
Yeah.
So, you know,
it's funny. Here I am complaining about like cohesiveness in the last album, but I have an EP that just has like covers so many different,
all sorts of different things.
Yeah. I think, sometimes it's hard to see the wood from the trees with your own music. It's probably the best thing, but I did try and make sure that there was like at least like a lyrical and like a visual narrative that kind of linked all of them together, which is kind of why for the first time in my career, I made like a music video for every single one of the songs on the EP and went down the whole like visual storytelling to try and bring it together.
I was also conscious that the cover for this is a lot of you, right? And I kind of noted as well, and I don't know whether this is something you'd actually considered or thought about or whatever, but actually your first album is literally your face, and then you're like then there's like In Water, where you're literally in water, and then you're kind of like and Blurred and whatever, and now this is like fully you. It's almost like you're coming out of yourself in terms of the visual element of yourself as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 27. I think it's taken me a long time to feel this confident. I think because I started so early, now I'm reaching like what I see as like level 1 of like where I want to start the rest of my adult life confidence wise. And everything has just been like building up to this.
Has it been a bit of a blur the last 10 years?
Yeah. Oh, it's been
10 years now.
Yeah? You know what I mean? Yeah, it's been a bit of a blur. It kind of amazes me how much like music I've managed to pack into that amount of time. But yeah, what you were saying about like all the different parts of me, like I guess I wanted to show with that artwork like all the different versions of me, which is why you see me like if you endlessly zoom in, I'm on every single like photograph or Polaroid that I'm like throwing around the place.
Wow.
But because I guess like I think what I've realized in my wise late 20s is like you can be those multiple versions of yourself. And I think maybe previous records or like previously visually, I've tried to like pigeon myself into a single hole, and it's sometimes worked, but sometimes just slightly been off the mark. And whereas this time has been like 100% driven by me and independently released, and it just felt like a new energy.
Yeah. Do you know what? I think so many people that listen to this will totally get that anyway, which is that I think it doesn't matter what industry you're in, whether it's music or business, you know, some other business or whatever is, and we've seen it a lot. I hate to talk about it really in a way, but since COVID, where people suddenly had to stop, a lot of people had to stop and then, you know, rethink about their lives and refocus or reframe their lives. And so many people realize like, sod it. Do you know what? You know, this could have all been it. So I'm going to be whatever I need to be. I have talked to, and I've seen so many people go, do you know what? I'm still learning. I'm 52 this year. Well, no, I'll be 53 later in this year. And like only in the last 4 years or whatever, have I started this, and this is what I've always wanted to do. And you just think, well, if I can make you feel good about all of this, is that it will just keep getting better. I think you just keep reframing and keep going, oh my word, why did I try and please that group of people, or why did I, you know, follow that line when actually what I wanted to do was this? And I think you just become far more sort of relaxed about it. That,
yeah. And I think it becomes weirdly more alluring for fans, even though it sometimes feels that the industry is trying to like pigeonhole you down like a very specific path. I think my work's got better, and I guess, felt more successful when I've done exactly my own thing. But yeah, I don't know. When we looked at the stats on like how this EP did, we realized that we'd lost a lot of followers and then gained a lot of followers, like on lots of streams, and they were like, oh, that's interesting. When you usually go down a different direction, you usually just like lose a lot of people, but like what's left is a core thing. So everything's kind of stayed the same in terms of like, we've maybe got like a slightly new fan base that is like meeting me where I am, which is maybe better than a fan base that is like lost touch with the new me and is like still sees me as like an 18-year-old, or like is still with me on the first album. But that's the nature of like growing and changing.
I think all the time you have to just shake the tree, and you know, the people that, well, and also it's the difference between, famously Bruce Dickinson talks about it. I mean, you know, I know we're talking Iron Maiden here, but he does a very famous talk about this because he's a business entrepreneur as well. But he does talk about the difference between customers and fans will stick with you through the difference and the, you know, the evolution and the change, whereas customers kind of come and go. They
That's
go,
it.
well, I
Yeah.
buy into that at that point, but you know, now I want this, or I like that because of this, and now you're not producing that anymore, so I'm going away again. But fans will go on the journey with you, so hopefully what you're developing is along the route, as fans, you know.
Yeah, I mean, I hope so. It's not. I always say, especially because I like mentor some younger artists as well, and like when you're creating, you can't have the audience in mind within that conception of the song, because otherwise it completely ruins like the session, or like the energy or the magic of what could, you know.
I want my artists, personally, I want my artists to challenge my listening. And I want them to challenge my preconception of what it is that they do as well. So I think that's an important part of, you know, delivering in a way. I think that's why so many artists are taking to patrons or you know, supporter groups or whatever, who will just say, actually, you know, just get on with it, just do what you do, and we'll support you financially, and we'll support you in doing that, because, you know, otherwise you might as well just buy the latest pop stuff all of the time, or the latest stuff that's in a particular genre all of the time, and stick to that lane.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want artists to go, that was last album, this is this album. And also I've heard a number of artists over the years say that it tends to be for them as well, that every album that they bring out is in some way a reaction to the previous album. Do you feel like what you're doing now is a reaction to what you did before?
Yeah, in a very like teenage angst way.
Cool. We're all like a bit
There's
of teenage angst.
yeah, there's like a kind of rebelliousness where you kind of want to be like, oh, you think that's me? I'm going to challenge that. Like, and I think also because it can take like 1 to 3 years to make a record, depending. And by the time it comes out, it really is quite a previous version of you. So you're like so eager after it comes out to like jump onto the next train, just because it's been so long. And I guess that's the side that maybe the fans don't really see, and that we all kind of as artists have to kind of suppress whilst we tour, because we're just eager to make the next section of our life really in the studio.
Yeah.
Funny.
The last song on the EP, and then I want to talk to you about some of the other writing you've done, but the last song on the EP, there's a hell of a long note on there. That's a bit of a belter. So were you channeling your sort of inner Shirley Bassey for that? I mean, it was
It's
felt
just, yeah.
like you really felt like, you know, we hadn't necessarily heard that power from you before in that way.
No, I think there is a lot of my work centers around love, if I'm honest. And
Why
there
not?
was
You know,
this, yeah, and now at this grand old age, there has been some like big relationships in my life that have like come and gone. And it's kind of like this warped ode to that and the complex feelings of like leaving someone and continuing to love them but not being with them, but it not necessarily being like the most healthiest thing for you. And so it's just like this proclamation, like, I want to be loved by you, like in whatever way. You don't have to see me ever again. It's like this kind of like power that you put out into the world. And it's kind of, I guess this EP dips into like a lot of like ego death, I guess, and guilt. And there's a bit more of a self-reflection and accountability that there defo wasn't in my early 20s. So yeah, it's dramatic, but like maybe in a Kate Bush way than
cool.
yeah.
Have you played this to any exes then that may have been inspiration for the tracks?
Funnily enough, I don't think there's any way that they could avoid it. I think it's too tempting. If someone wrote something like about me or like around me, like
You want to know.
Yeah. I always think that there's like a weird perversion. Like even if it's like, I hate you and you've done all this bad things, like people want to know. It's art and it's interesting.
Yeah, but at least what you haven't done, and I'm not saying it's wrong, but I'm just saying it's, you know, it's perhaps calls to a bit of press. You haven't gone into granular detail like a certain Taylor Swift in terms of like.
No, I think one of the things about one of the reasons why I don't go into detail and I use lots of visual metaphors is because I feel like, and I do this with like, I love poetry and I write a lot of poetry. And the things that really I attach to are like visual metaphors I can apply my own situation to. Whereas like the more specific you are, the less it can, the less you can attach it to you.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah.
And in a funny way as well, the less the listener can attach their own relationships or their own journey to that as well, I think, in some ways, because it is so specific. You know, I mean, I think it's great. I think it's great when someone creates a song that genuinely evokes so much emotion and so much strong feeling, and yet actually it may come from a very completely different place, but over years the audience attaches all these different meanings to it. I mean, I've sat watching the other night, someone got REM back around the table.
REM.
Yeah, and they were talking about Losing My Religion, which was a song that they never actually rated as a going to be a hit or whatever. They just thought, well, it's a good song, but this isn't going to be a hit. And of course, it went massive, and people attached so much feeling to it, and probably most of the sentiment that other people attached to it was nothing to do with the song. But
what did they say it was about?
Losing My Religion. Well,
yeah, it's me in the spotlight. Losing My Religion is it about being thrown into fame and that kind of.
No, it's just like a southern term. That Losing My Religion apparently is just like a southern term for like sort of like losing belief in things, but not necessarily like religion or belief in God, not bigger stuff like that, but just sort of throwaway things. Yeah. So it was not quite as big as a lot of people made it out to be. And so, yeah, it was kind of just,
It would be too on the nose for them to do that anyway. Like,
yeah, it was just kind of a bit of a,
that's all-
I'm feeling a bit down sort of thing. And I'm just kind of losing my, losing my faith in stuff,
yeah,
know,
that's sick. I'm writing that down.
which is cool. But then it kind of grew into this other thing. But I saw you've been doing some writing, or you wrote on the last Paloma Faith album.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Well, in the background I have two separate management, one for Lapsley and one for me as a songwriter, which I kind of started that journey like 3-4 years ago, I guess COVID. And I threw myself into writing for people. And initially, like, Lapsley got me through a lot of doors. And then now I'm kind of becoming known as like a songwriter in my own right, and in different lanes that aren't really to do with Lapsley, or different genres. But they put me forward for Paloma Faith's album Camp, and then me and her got on like a house on fire.
Cool.
And yeah, so the song that we ended up writing together ended up being the lead single. And then I also had credit on a second song called Eat Shit and Die, which was hilarious.
Is a great title. What a title.
So funny. When we were making it in the room, none of us knew that would that would end up being on the record. But I like that anger. And she is very much like, she can do such a serious kind of ballad as well as something tongue-in-cheek like that. I think, yeah. She's really cool, actually. I really enjoyed that process.
Cool. I'm going to see her Friday. So I look forward to singing along to your song that you wrote together, which
Bad Woman.
Bad Woman. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I have to say, I'm quite enjoying her whole Instagram kind of slightly tongue-in-cheek take on everything as she puts this album out as well. I mean, it's yeah. She seems like she's gone through a lot, and this album to her was really trying to probably be as honest as she could be.
Yeah, and I think she's happier as a result of it, and she's so like sparky in interviews and like really witty and funny, and it's just an energy that I think we need to see more women like that in the media, and especially women like in their 30s and 40s. It's cool.
Yeah, the whole MILF thing is hilarious. It's brilliant. I love it. Yeah.
She gave me the book last week. I still need to read it. I'm quite a quick reader. So I'm going to set aside.
Is it a big book? Is it a big book?
It's a hardback. So
it's a hardback. So they always feel like they're going to take longer than they
I should be able to blast through it. Yeah.
Yeah. It always depends on the size of the text. It's when you open a book and it's like, it's massive, and then there's tiny text as well, and then you think, oh my word, this is really gonna hit. It's like I got
like all the
that's another singer. I don't know whether you've ever heard of Steve Hogarth, but look at the size of that.
Oh wow.
And it's tiny text as well. That's an interesting point, actually. That basically he wrote that as a set of diaries, as you see, from 1991 to 2014. Do you keep a diary? Is that something you do?
Not in a traditional sense, but I fill my notes, and I have notebooks that I fill. So, and everything, all of the songs so I'm in the studio every day. I'd say like maybe like once a week it ends up being Lapsley, but the rest is for other people. And I end up like documenting a lot of my life within the songs I'm writing for the people. I don't think they know it at the time, but
your life is documented in other people's songs.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes cool. It kind of aligns. That's what they want to write about. But so that would be an interesting journey to go on in a few years, like dissecting some of the songs I've written and being like, oh, yeah, that was about that person. But there's definitely a physical like documentation of my life in different ways, in poetry and in lyrics, like every day, I'd say.
It would be quite an interesting, I don't know, I can't think of any examples off of the top of my head, but it would be quite interesting rather than just like at some point a greatest hits retrospective of your career. It'd be quite interesting to have like the greatest hits, but like including the songs you've written for other people that were like part of the stories as well. That'd be nice.
It's funny. I mean, one of the songs I've written went platinum, which was Charlie XCX, and it's called Out Out. So I have one platinum, and it's in my bathroom disc. Just funny because it's like it's the most non-muso song that I've ever worked on, and that's the one that ends up being the most successful. But that's what I mean. Like it's
because it
like,
comes direct, because it's direct and it's there and it's got like 20 seconds.
Yeah, like it's not highbrow. It's so lowbrow, and that's kind of obviously why it's just taken off and done so well. But yeah, all of the like higher brow stuff is like a bit more indie and a bit smaller.
Well, you've also got a sort of Cafe Del Mar-ish nice dance single out at the moment as well. Bit of a clash.
Yeah, I mean, I think I always try and do, I guess since COVID, like one single a year that is with a dance like DJ producer that I really like. I guess if you listen to my old stuff like Operator, there's always like, I kind of like come from the dance floor in some ways. Like I used to be a raver when I was younger, and so I still have like a massive amount of respect for dance music. So yeah, that's the one I picked this year, and it was I think it's one of my favorite that I've done so far with Frankie Wah. It's quite like a timeless top line.
Exactly. It's got a nice vibe. It's got a lovely sort of timeless vibe to it, hasn't it?
Yeah, I'm super chuffed about that one. So thanks for mentioning.
No, that's all right. You wouldn't. I don't think you would know whether that had come sort of like. Well, I suppose some of it you would because of some of the sounds in it, but that would have come just as well out of the sort of like late 90s, early 2000s as well as now, wouldn't it? That would just
Yeah, but that's what I think good dance music does. There's like a timeless quality to it on the dance floor.
Yeah. If it sounds too much like now, it's come and gone, really.
Yeah, like you want old ravers to be able to dance to it in the same way as you want like 14-year-olds to. It's kind of like this is undisputable track that you can move to.
What was the biggest hit back in the days when you were clubbing all the time? You probably still are, but I mean, but when you were doing it all of the time, what was the biggest hit for you? What can you remember? Like,
I remember
your favorites.
Yeah, well, the song,
baby, music sounds better with you. That was like for me. That was
that was a good one. Disclosure was huge when I first started.
Oh, massive. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's this track called "Oh Survey" by Julio Bashmore, which I remember was like the first house track to like really smash the UK charts. And because I was like sneaking off and going to raves, and like this was being played everywhere, and then suddenly hearing it like on the breakfast counter when I was like having my cereal next to my mum was a really bizarre like clash of worlds. But everything changed from that point, from that record. And it's one of the reasons that like Radio 1 is like full of house music now, like because it's landed. Yeah.
And also though, there's a lot of great writers who are also doing or collaborating and bringing it into their DJ sets as well. And I quite like that. Romy's done really well with that, hasn't she? I mean, in terms of that whole kind of like, we'll do a DJ set, then I'll do some vocals on my own tracks, and like kind of just make it into a whole club experience. Yeah.
It's a vibe.
Yeah. Have you done that at all? You've done.
I've talked about it recently on my social media, because I have so many dance tunes now. And I've done some like guest radio shows, and I've got my DJ decks. So you can kind of see setup. So like I do and can DJ. I guess it's always been like a bit of a private thing. I've never like when I'm on the stage, I want to be like floating around babushka vibes. But maybe this is the step up that I needed.
maybe you start by putting it out there online and seeing whether you build the crowd up. I know. I remember in the middle of COVID, because obviously no one was going out. I was following Shora doing her DJ sets on Twitch, and it was
Oh
brilliant.
yeah. Love Shora.
Yeah, and it was just like there were millions of people. Well, probably thousands, not millions, but there were thousands and thousands of people coming on, and it was like the stream was like this. It just kept moving. I think people loved it.
Yeah. Her tune selection is amazing, and her knowledge.
Yeah, I'm waiting for another album from her. Where's the album?
I'll text her. I'll ask her where.
Can you ask her? Can you say yeah? Well, I also want to get her on here as well. So if you can ask her that would be brilliant. Is there someone that you haven't worked with yet that you'd love to work with?
Who would I like to write for? I'd love to work with Ezra Collective.
Oh,
and then
you heard
on the
new album. You heard Dance?
No, I need to
That's great.
Oh, they've just dropped a new song with Yasmin Lacey last week, and it's like God gave me feet for dancing. It's just such a lovely track. I was actually working with Yasmin like 2 weeks ago as well, and she was like, "Oh, I'm about to drop this song with Ezra Collective." I was like, "Show me!" So that would be really cool. But in general, I just want to work with big pop artists and really elevate their work. I'd love to work with Selena Gomez. I love things that dip into Latin music, and also I go to South Africa a lot, so things that kind of dip into amapiano and a lot more. Yeah.
Or a bit of Latin vibe to it, or something like that.
Yeah. That's kind of a dream situation.
Talking about DJ nights and doing it live, that's what we because I was DJing in London years ago, and as part of the club night that we ran there called Abundant, we used to have, whilst we were playing on the decks, we used to have live percussion and trumpet, and we had kind of create that whole kind of live Latin vibe. I'd love to see more of that, as well.
Yeah. I think it was so nice, seeing Ezra Collective with all of the instruments on stage. It's like a rare thing now. You've got the two ends of the spectrum. You've got Charlie XCX, who's just got a whole backing track, and then you've got Ezra Collective with all the instruments, and they both have their place. It's really
well, because it depends how well you can dance.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd started DJing because I couldn't dance for toffee, right? So it just meant that I could go to clubs and not feel embarrassed. It's better to be behind the decks, because all you got to do is that. You don't have to do any of this other stuff.
All jazz musicians just went into jazz because they couldn't dance and they needed something to obsess over on the stage.
Very quickly before you go, if there's one jazz artist that I'd love to see you do some stuff with, it's Jasmine Myra. Have you listened to Jasmine's stuff?
No, I've heard of Jasmine.
Definitely. Just feel that she's got something different going about her. She's got a great aesthetic as well. I love her, the way that she puts her album covers out. It's all quite minimalist but strong at the same time. I just think,
Yes, down.
Yeah, she's just released her latest album, The Rising, and it's got some really good builds in there as well. I just think it could lend itself to doing a bit of sort of a bit of a crossover. That would be good.
Nice.
Listen, it's been a pleasure talking to you. So the EP's out.
The EP's out. A Guilty Heart Can Never Rest. So all streaming platforms.
Which is a lyric that comes out of the lead track on the album. On the EP, isn't it? Yeah.
It's Insomnia.
There you go. So please do go and check it out, stream it. And there should be an album, later this year or next year, do you reckon? Not putting you under any pressure.
I'm not meant to say, but after the summer, something will be coming. Yeah. I'm not very good at hiding because I'm just constantly working.
Save up your pocket money, folks.
Yeah, because they'll be physical. Yeah.
Physical, and we want you to go and buy it and enjoy it in all of its glory. And there may even be some, I don't know, coloured vinyl or stuff like that, because everybody's doing it nowadays. You know?
Special one.
Special ones, which
Yeah.
everybody, you need to get in very quick to enjoy that. Are you going to, very quickly before leaving, are you going to any festivals this summer? Are you
No,
enjoying
that'll be
any?
next year. So I've kind of reset and changed a lot of my team, like going forward into this next chapter. So
I meant as a punter, actually. I mean, are you just turning up anywhere?
I wish. I'll be going to some London stuff, but I'm actually getting a puppy in August.
Are you?
Yeah,
What
because I was like a miniature Australian Shepherd. So it's like it's called a miniature American Shepherd, but I don't know if you've seen Aussie Shepherds.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'll be touring all next year, so I needed to kind of get the first few months with a puppy sorted and trained, and yeah. So that's
Trust
my plan.
me, dogs are everything, right? Dogs are absolutely everything. I have a newsletter. It's called Sausage Dogs Are Cute, and it does so well. Not because of me, not because of my writing, but because of the sausage dog pictures. It just so.
I love
What you need to do is you need to start, if you're doing a newsletter out to fans and whatever, it's just lots of pictures of your dog, and it would just take off. You see?
Yeah, that's such a good tip. Thanks, Graham.
It is. It is. What can I say? Everybody loves a cute dog. Ours is a mini sausage, so it's great. Apart from, I'll tell you this, Holly, where it's bad is when you go out as a family to the beach, and literally you walk about 10 yards, and then someone stops you and goes, "Can I stroke your dog? Can I stroke your dog?" It's like, in the end, it gets a bit like, because you don't want to upset people, but at the same time, it's like you can't actually get on and do anything.
Yeah, poor dog. Yeah.
Yeah,
Funny.
I know how famous musicians must feel when they get asked for their autograph every 5 paces.
Yeah, the dogs had a bit of that life.
With the dog, I have never had that, but there you go. Listen, it's been lovely to speak to you again. Thank you so much for coming and doing this. Wish you all the best of luck with the EP. I look forward to buying a copy of the new album as well when that comes out, because that would be fantastic as well.
Yeah.
I'll have to make some more room in my collection, well, which is fine. I'll just knock down another wall. Until next time, you've been listening to my music from me, Graham Lapsley. If you've enjoyed this, please do share and all of those sort of things. If you haven't, then well, just go away.